Hello everyone, I hope you guys are doing good. Today we'll be considering problem 20 of Leetcode valid parenthesis. So for this problem, we have been given a string if containing just the characters brackets, the curly brackets, the square brackets, and the normal brackets. And we have to tell if we have a valid string or not. For an input string to be valid, we have few conditions. The conditions are as follows. Open brackets must be closed by the same type of brackets. Like for every open bracket, we have its own pair of closing brackets. And every opening bracket can only be closed by a certain closing bracket. The opening brackets must be closed in the correct order. Okay. So if any opening bracket starts, it has to be closed by its pair, and we could not consider our string to be valid if a certain opening bracket is being followed by another closing bracket which is not its pair, or another opening bracket which is different than it and even similar to it. Even a string with two same opening brackets and two same closing brackets is invalid, because in the given problem we have to close every bracket before starting a different pair of bracket. So the main idea before solving this problem would be to keep track of the opening brackets, for which we would use a data structure named as stack. Also, we would have to keep track of each pair. Like for each closing bracket, we should know that a certain opening bracket is its pair. So we would also have a data structure, a hash map, or as we say in Python, a dictionary, in which we would store every closing bracket as a key and its opening bracket at its value. So we would have all of the closing brackets as keys and all the opening brackets as its values. So the main approach for a problem would be to start traversing through the given input string. Let's say our input given to us is something of this kind. So we would start traversing our input array. And if the character in our string belongs to the opening brackets would be a string of every opening bracket, and closing bracket would be a string of every closing bracket. So now we have all the opening brackets, we have all the closing brackets, and we have a dictionary that stores every pair. So now we would start traversing our input array, and for every character that belongs to the opening bracket, we would add that character to a stack. Let's say the first character here, the curly bracket, has been added. Else, if the character does not belong to the opening brackets, we would have to see and consider the following cases. The first case in this scenario would be we would have to check if the stack is empty or not. If the stack is already empty and we have a closing bracket, then we would never be able to make this string a valid string, as there was no opening bracket for the given closing bracket. So if this is the case, we would straight away return false. Now we'll look at another scenario where the element present in our stack is actually the pair of the new character arriving. For this, we would use our dictionary and check if the value to this key is similar to the character present in the stack. If this is the case, we would pop our stack and we would be left with an empty stack. We would follow this process until we reach the end, and we would return true that the string is valid if our stack remains empty or the length of the stack is equals to 0. So now we would be starting with our code to this problem. Yeah. So first thing first, we would create a dictionary. Let's call it dict_p, or dictionary for parenthesis. We'll have a hash map where we would store the closing brackets as keys and the given opening brackets as their values. So here we have all the given brackets. The next step, or the next thing we need to store, is we need to have the idea if the given character of a string while traversing belongs to the opening bracket class or the closing bracket class. For that, we would have to keep track of opening brackets, where we would store all the given opening brackets. And we would have a string named closing B or closing brackets, where we would store all the closing brackets. And we would have to make a new data structure named stack, which would help us in keeping track of each of our character. So we'll start traversing our string, our input string. So let's say for character and S, if the character is present in opening brackets, then we would straight away append that character to our stack. Else, we would check if the length of stack is equals 0. It means that we do not have an opening bracket present in our stack. So in this case, we would straight away return false, that this given string is not valid. Else if we would check if the last character of stack is same as the value of the current character that we have stored in the string. If this is the case, we would pop our stack, and now we would have an empty stack. And for each other cases, we would just return false. Now, after traversing a string, we would check if the length of our stack is equal to 0. If it is, we would return true, else false. So we would just write a single line of code that return the length of stack Let's look into our solution. Okay, my bad. So as we can see, we have a pretty efficient solution. And talking about the time complexity of the solution, as we are traversing our string only once, the time complexity of a solution would be big O of n, and the space complexity of a solution would be big O of n as well.